This is Rhiannon from Torn from Existence and Ither Hest, and you are watching Richard Metal Fan.
Hey, what's up,
All right.
guys? Episode 376 of Richard Metalfan Interviews, calling from Zoom, and I'm here with Rhiannon Wisniewski from Torn from Existence and also Ither Hest. So, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Richard. How are you?
Not too bad, not too bad. It's a good little afternoon here in Georgia. How is it? I believe you're in Colorado.
I am. I'm in the mountains of Colorado, a little over an hour outside Denver, and the sun is out, and
Yeah.
it's a beautiful day here in the Rockies.
Yeah, that's awesome. So kind of what I want to talk about is like your musical history and sort of do a rundown of your discography, but take me back to young Rhiannon. So growing up, what were the first bands that got you into metal? What made you want to play the keyboards and slap in the bass and all that good stuff?
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, it was. I'm an only child, and I had a lot of time on my hands growing up, and always was musically inclined. Started playing piano at a very early age, just picking out the melodies from Christmas carols. And then I realized, oh, at least my mom and grandma realized, oh wow, she's got an ear because she's playing melody lines and never had any lessons. So I've always been interested in playing music, and it's funny, and I don't even necessarily love this band today, but the first heavier band I got into back in the day was Guns N' Roses. I was 11, and Appetite for Destruction came
Yes.
out, and I just
Welcome
thought that
to
was
the
the coolest.
jungle. We got tons of
Yeah,
cake.
think of yeah, think of an 11-year-old hearing that and going, "Oh, that's heavy. That's raunchy. I want to know more about that." And I took my allowance money and rode my bike up to the record store back in the day and bought the Appetite for Destruction cassette tape and the matching shirt with the heads on the crosses. And
Yeah.
I thought I was pretty badass. And that was definitely a gateway into heavier stuff. Then immediately after that, I was getting into Slayer, Megadeth, Metallica, Pantera, Queensryche, Tesla, Extreme. I was into the more progressive metal and Judas Priest and stuff
Yeah.
like that, of course,
All
but
good
also into
stuff.
that just straight up heavy metal. Yeah. And then every year I just got into heavier and heavier stuff. After Slayer, I wanted to know more. And then I got into Sepultura. And then I got into, Testament and Annihilator and the heavier thrash bands and Exodus and all that good stuff. And then I thought, what else is out there? Death metal time, Morbid Angel, Edge of Sanity, all the death metal bands I grew
Yes.
up with in the 90s. Had to know more about that stuff, and
Yeah.
then kind of got into black metal, and that's where I saw that there's more keyboards going on
More
in
atmospheric
in the
kind of
metal
stuff.
realm. Yeah,
Because there's always like
yeah,
those subgenres of black metal. There's the symphonic black metal with like Cradle of Filth, Dimmu Borgir, Old Man's Child, and shit like that.
yeah, and definitely got into that pretty early. Dimmu was a big thing for me in the 90s when they were getting big. Uh, huge into them. Children of Bodom. Not really black metal, but they definitely
Yeah, they have
utilized
that
a
kind
lot
of
of
like
cool
that
keyboards.
style in there. They're like the symphonic elements they have. They were like one of my gateways into like extreme metal when I was like in high school.
Yeah, here. Huge. There's actually a really sweet Children of Bodom cover band called Follow the Reaper here, loosely based in Denver, and whenever they play, it's a great time.
Nice.
So we're lucky we can see the legacy live on. Fortunately, I got to see all those bands back in the day, being a bit of an elder metalhead. My old band, my first band, Somnus, in
Yeah.
Cleveland, got to open for a lot of these bands
Oh
that we're talking
wow.
about. And it was funny. So the origin story of Somnus, I was at, and
Yeah.
this is a legendary show in and of itself, but it was early 96. Morbid Angel, At the Gates, Dissection.
Wow,
Awesome
what a
show.
lineup.
Yeah. I still have the concert t-shirt from that one. 96 in Cleveland. And I was in the ladies' room, had been coming out the door from my stall and overheard two ladies saying, and I don't know where they'll ever find a female keyboard player who can sing. Ears perked up. I'm 19 at the time, and I just thought, well, I had never been in a real band yet. I had done garage bands in high school with some friends of mine, mostly thrash metal, and I played guitar and bass in those bands or whatever instrument needed to be played. based on whatever people we could find. Everything but drums I can play. So I'd switch between bass and guitar depending on who we had in the lineup. But anyway, no real bands that were gigging and recording anything. So yeah, I came out and just thought, well, that might be me. Maybe I could do that. And then within a couple weeks, I was down there trying out, and that
Yeah.
band was called Somnus, and
Yeah.
our whole mission was to put out some doomy atmospheric black metal.
Yeah.
So the nickname for us in Cleveland, at least from a couple people, they called us My Dying Cradle of Samael.
Wow.
So hey,
Yeah. But
so a mix of genres there.
yeah, but I know before that you had your first band, Avernus. Like, tell
Oh,
me
that
about
was
that.
second.
Oh,
Yeah.
second.
Yeah, I actually got in Avernus because of the Somnus thing.
Oh, so I
So
thought it was before.
no, Avernus was around before.
Oh,
So you are correct, Richard, in that Avernus was older, but they had a female vocalist, Kimberly Goss, who went on
yeah.
to do great things in
With
overseas with Synergy and things like that. So she was their first vocalist, and then after she departed, they needed another vocalist, and I was in touch with some of those folks online back in the old AOL days, and got connected with Avernus and was able to do backing vocals on their East of Eden demo, and then the Of the Fallen CD, and then I performed two Milwaukee Metal Fests with them, as well as a brief stint of tour dates with Avernus, but that was because I had already been in Somnus and was starting to get connected in the scene a little bit. And that was a very long drive to band practice because I was in Cleveland and Avernus is based in Chicago. So it was a 6 hour drive to band practice.
holy shit.
Yeah, the things you do for metal. And
Yeah.
I was 19 at the time. So it's pretty early on, only within a few months of joining Somnus. And then I was able to do the Avernus stuff as well. So I did the two bands for a little bit, mostly just playing the bigger shows and festivals with Avernus. And then they went in a direction after that where they chose not to use female vocals anymore. And they have a fairly new release. I think it came out last year or earlier this year, where it's pretty solid. It's back to the Death Doom roots, and they're all still kicking it over there. So
Yeah.
it was a great experience for me though, and it helped open some doors. And then that Avernus connection helped Somnus get signed to Root of All Evil Records in Minneapolis. Because one of the scouts, my friend Brian, who I'm still friends with and actually moved out here to the Denver metro area, he saw Avernus, and then he asked me, "Are you doing anything else? I thought I heard that you might be in another band." I gave him a Somnus demo, and then Somnus was signed to Root of All Evil Records, really small label, just mostly help with distribution and getting on a couple festivals. But those things did help me out back in the day, almost 30 years ago.
Yeah, it's crazy. But tell me about some of like those first Somnus demos. Like, where were those recorded at?
Oh, back in Cleveland, I don't know that any of those places still exist anymore, given the timetable. We're talking 29 years ago. But yeah, we recorded our first two-song demo with a keyboard intro back in '96, started playing out in Cleveland. And after we started playing out and getting our demo out, we started getting connected with the local promoters, and that's where we really got those amazing opportunities. The bands I've opened for make people lose their shit. My old band Somnus, we opened for F, we opened for Dimmu, we opened for Cradle, we opened for Satyricon,
Wow.
Emperor, uh, Witchery, King Diamond, Megadeth. I mean, it was nice to be well connected in the Cleveland scene. The Cleveland scene in the '90s was really not bad. We had some decent opportunities back then to get on some good shows and promote ourselves. It's so much more saturated now. I think it's harder than ever to get anybody to pay any attention to you. And I'm glad I have those memories of making flyers at Kinko's with taped logos stuck on a piece of paper, scotch
Wow.
tape, and like copying those and passing those out to people.
Yeah, that's
So
that's the things you do back in the day. And now it's crazy how things have like changed over the years.
oh, it is. And being in bands pretty solidly, I don't think I've ever had more than two or 3 years off from being in metal bands during this whole 30-year run.
Yeah.
But yeah, things have changed a lot, and I'm thankful to still be making cool music with great people and excellent musicians. Um, I I don't think a lot in my life has changed, and I'm actually really happy about that. I've been a metalhead since I was 11 and still am, and
Yeah.
at age
That was me too.
48.
That's me too, and I'm like
Awesome.
31 still, and I still love metal. So yeah, but tell
Yeah,
me,
when they say it's a phase, I'm like,
yeah, it's not a
maybe for
phase,
somebody, but
Mom.
not for me.
Like it's not a phase,
Yeah,
Mom. Get
exactly.
out.
That's
Yeah.
right. And I'm glad, my mom is actually a metalhead also,
That
so it
that's
was
like
nice.
me and my dad too.
Oh, cool.
They
That's
raised me
awesome.
right.
We went to so many shows together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My dad took me to
Yeah.
some of my
I
first shows
I
when I
went to
was in
shows younger.
teenagers. I remember my dad took me to like my first concert when I was 14. I saw like Slipknot back in the day. That's kind of like how I'm dating myself.
Oh yeah, no, that's fine. I mean, my mom took me to my first show, and my first show wasn't metal, but it was actually a pretty slamming lineup: Aerosmith and the Black Crowes in '89.
Nothing wrong with
So
that. Aerosmith
yeah,
has some good songs.
no, it was fun.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
agree.
and then we by my fourth show, I was at Slayer, so
Yeah.
we were able to get heavier pretty fast, and then we were fixtures of the Cleveland metal scene. My mom and I would be at every show, and in fact, my mom DJ'd college radio. She had a metal show for many years in the Cleveland area that people would call in and do requests, and she'd help people find out what was going on that was new. She was tied in with distributors like Blackmark and Century Media, and she'd get promo copies of early stuff. I remember when we got the very first Opeth release
Well,
from I think it might have been Blackmark, Marco Barbieri, like a million years ago. But yeah, it was just neat to get some of those copies of stuff when it was first coming out and nobody had ever heard of it yet.
yeah.
It was nice to be on the ground floor of that.
Yeah, totally. And then going into like 97, 98, I want to talk a little bit about like Nocturary and of course Sanctorum. Like tell me about them. Like as I can't really find like any info about it. It's most some of those
Sure.
bands.
Yeah, yeah, they didn't release a whole heck of a lot. That's probably why I never really got. Maybe we didn't get signed or do anything other than some local shows. But yeah, just friends of mine in the Cleveland scene wanting to do some different stuff. And then being a keyboard player, there are not very many metal keyboard players out there. So when people find you out as a metal keyboardist, because there is a different dynamic. I don't want to just hold choir notes the whole time and do very simple stuff. But I'm also not Baroque either. And then you just kind of learn that sensibility of what keyboards fit what part. If is the band doing something really heavy and death metal, maybe I do something very understated or even bow out during that part. And then, during a black metal part, can I do some symphonic arpeggios or something cool? And once people hear that you have an ear and know where keyboards fit in metal, which I don't think that is a standard body of knowledge. I think that takes expertise. Um, then they seek you out. So with Noctuary, they thought, well, we're trying to do a bit of a Cradle-esque black metal thing. Can you come and do some keyboards for us? And we did a couple shows and didn't really do too much as a whole. And then I think they continued on without me as well. So I lost a little bit of track of that. And then with Sanctorum, that was more mellow death, melodic death metal, and I'm still in a mellow death metal band today, Ither Hest, and I was playing bass for that band, so that got to help me play a different instrument other than keyboards all the time. I am a multi instrumentalist. I like to play. I always say jack of all trades, master of none. I can play a bunch of different instruments. I'm not virtuosic on any one of them, but I like to play them. So with Sanctorum, it was like, okay, let's play bass with some really good musicians and do more of a mellow death thing. And that was really fun. And there were even times where Somnus and Sanctorum both played the same show. So I would actually change clothes and change instruments because I don't know why. I just thought it was cheesy to wear the same outfit for both
Yeah.
bands. So I would go and change clothes and then go grab my bass. And yeah,
Yeah.
I was 20 at the time. So I thought I needed a different look and a different outfit.
Yeah, kind
Um,
of like
so
change it
yeah,
to
then
like
I'd go
another alter
change and
ego in a way.
get back up there. Yeah, yeah. I didn't want I didn't want it to be the same. I wanted the
Switch
stage
things
show to
up.
be a little different. Yeah, so I did that for a little while, and then I don't really know exactly what happened there, other than maybe, sometimes two to three bands can be a lot. I think I was doing Avernus at the time also, and I might have been doing three bands, and that might have been too much. And I was also in college at the time and working part time, and I think that that's what happened there. No hard feelings or anything like that with either of those groups. I think it was more just me needing to continue to focus on Somnus as well as getting my degree and working, making money. I was broke as heck back then, so that was always a consideration too. Do I have money to be in all these bands and buy instruments and all that stuff? So,
Yeah.
so that might have been why you didn't hear too much more out of those two bands.
Yeah, but I was listening to that first Somnus album, Awakening the Crown. I thought that was like really a badass album. Like, what was sort of like the writing and recording process like for that?
Oh man, thank you. There's of course looking back, I wish the production were a little bit better and maybe the guitars were a little tighter or something like that. There's always things you can criticize looking back, but I am really proud of that work, and I feel like we were ahead of our time. I don't think that there were many bands in the States with our sound, with that kind of doomy atmospheric black metal thing that we were doing back then. And yeah, I'm still really proud of it. So I'm glad you checked it out and that you found some enjoyment there. We would pretty much just write all of our songs in the practice space. I know with my bands now, with both my bands, with Torn from Existence and Ither Hest, they both have principal songwriters who write almost everything. So in Ither Hest, Stefan, the lead guitarist, writes almost everything, and then or he does write everything actually, and then in Torn from Existence, David Couch, the guitarist, writes everything there. So it was a very different approach. It was more collaborative, and I wrote probably two-thirds or maybe even three-fourths of all the music back in Somnus. I would just kind of come up with keyboard riffs and then ask the guitarist to do something that fit. And then if they didn't, I would grab one of the guitars and say, all right, how about this type of riff? I'd grab the bass and say, okay, I hear this type of bass line there. And then just kind of collaboratively get the parts going, and then we eventually end up with a full song with people adding their ideas and in there as well. I never really wrote complete songs, so it was always collaborative, but um I was more inspired back then. I think life was harder for me, and I think that the harder your life is, the better your music is.
Yeah,
I think
it
when
kind of
things are
takes
too easy,
inspiration.
yeah, when things are too easy, it's kind of hard to come up with killer metal
Yeah.
music. It's like you need to be suffering to come up with the best metal.
Yeah.
So I was definitely suffering a lot more in my early 20s, between crappy self-esteem and being broke and not knowing what I was doing with my life and going through the grind in the Rust Belt. All that sort of contributed to having better musical ideas.
Nice.
So yeah, it was collaborative, but I wrote a lot more back then, and now that I'm in two bands again, I'm dusting off the rust and getting a little bit more back into writing some stuff too. So it's been good. But yeah, thanks for checking out Awakening the Crown. I certainly thought that was a cool release and very different, and yeah, some things about it could have been better, but it lives there
Yeah.
back in the past.
Yeah. Then going into 2001, A Space Odyssey, you started up a Nordic Mist. Like, tell me about that, because I know it's like the logo, it just looks like a Celtic frost. So I'm guessing your guys were really influenced by them.
Yeah, it was a tribute project, and thanks for bringing that up too, because it was the late great Jim Kanya from Cleveland, Ohio. Anybody from Cleveland, Ohio knows who Jim Kanya was. He was in many bands from Apartment 213 to Schnauzer to All That Is Evil, from the Depths first iteration, and then this Nordic Mist project. He was always doing side projects, and just an old school tape trader. He had instead of clothes in your dresser drawers and chests of drawers in your bedroom, he had cassette tapes that he traded from all over the world with people. He was just metal through and through. And unfortunately, he's no longer with us. He was a hell of a guy, a really cool person to know, and someone who mentored me back in the Cleveland metal scene. But yeah, he came up with Nordic Mist, and he wanted me to get involved with that project with him as someone he collaborated with frequently. We also did some stuff with a band called Derkata. They're still
Yeah.
active,
Yeah, I've
actually,
heard them.
female
Has
band.
my homie Robin.
Oh, Robin, yeah, of course. Robin's awesome. I wasn't a contemporary with Robin, but with Sharon in Derkata, we had done a little bit of work, and I laid down some keyboards and stuff for a couple Derkata demos back in the day, and that was through the Jim Kanya connection also.
Nice. And then going into 2002, you also did some session work with Arsharon with their album with their EP Zomali. Tell me about that.
That was really cool. Asheron is maybe one of the more well-known projects that I've been involved with, and yeah, they contacted me to come do a little bit of female vocals with them after just knowing me throughout the scene. Crowley was in Columbus, Ohio at the time, and so he was only 2 hours drive from me. And then they came up and recorded that stuff in Cleveland with me. So yeah, it was really neat to be asked to do that. And I still think those songs are really cool. And they're actually a little bit proggy for Asheron. Asheron was more death doom or death metal, and then that album got a little bit proggy with the keyboards and female vocals. And I thought that was kind of cool. I actually love a lot of prog as well. But yeah, that was neat to be asked to be involved with them. And then Kyle, who was playing drums for Incantation at the time, was also a part of Asheron then too, and so that was neat to work with Kyle then.
Yeah. And then of course you also did the last song on this album Through Creation's End. Thought that was pretty good. I love like Warlock's Feast. That video, it just looks like it just was shot in the 90s, even though the album came out in 2002. So tell me about making the last song on this album.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we recorded all of that in 2000, and then it finally came out in 2001. So yeah, that was shot, I think, in 2000 on the hairy edge of the 90s. Zero budget, no dollars. We were just in some woods that we knew about in Cleveland, and like, well, what can we do? And I think the video is very cheesy. It was meant to be serious, but I think it ended up coming out kind of cheesy. That's
Could
just my
become a
take
meme
on
at
it.
this point.
Well, sure. And it's just because, yeah, we had no budget. And when you want to do something cool with no budget, it ends up being cheesy. That's just the way it goes. And Richard, I was disappointed. I was outvoted.
Oh,
My I
really?
wanted I wanted the opening scene because I knew this was going to happen. I knew that even despite our best efforts, that it was going to end up looking memeable and cheesy. And I friggin' knew that. And I said, well, let's can we just kind of run with that and then maybe poke fun at ourselves a little bit? And what for the opening scene, what I wanted there to be a fire, and then you'd eventually pan out and then you'd see that we were holding swords over the fire, but then on the end of the swords would be hot dogs and marshmallows. Like we're just roasting that over the fire in the woods because we don't have anything better to do. We're a bunch of black metal musicians in Cleveland, Ohio. We're not burning churches or doing anything serious like they're doing in Norway. So
Yeah.
I just thought, well, let's poke fun at ourselves. We know it's going to be low budget and whatever, but they voted me down, and to this day I still think that would have been funny. And I did get a little chuckle out of you, so I'm going to
Yeah.
take that as a win.
Hey, I'll take, hey, that's fine by me. Fine by me. Hey,
Mm-hmm.
but
I
then of
just thought
course,
it's gonna look like crap anyway. Let's be silly about it. And they
no.
were like, no. Eh.
But then it was after that you hooked up with Tarambar for a little bit. Tell me about them because they were around for a few years from like '03 to like '06 maybe.
Yeah, yeah. Well, so actually before I left Cleveland, I was in a band called Dark Arena,
Oh, you're right.
playing keyboards with them. And that was a prog power. That was very Dream Theater-esque with Juan Ricardo on vocals and two twin 7-string lead guitars, very technical, and that was a departure from anything I had done. And it was actually cool because it helped push me with my keyboard chops, getting to be more technical and doing tougher parts. Which, as a instrumentalist, I always appreciate being pushed to get better at any one of these instruments that I'm trying to play. So I did the Dark Arena thing, and that was going really well. We actually opened for uh, was it Between the Buried and Me and Dragon Force and Iced Earth and
Oh,
who else did we open for? I don't know. We had some really cool shows in Cleveland, and then my time in Ohio was coming to an end, and so even despite being in a fun band that was doing some high profile stuff, uh, I just couldn't get anywhere with making money in Ohio. I had great friends and cool connections in the metal scene, but I was just having a heck of a time getting anything going with a bread and butter career. So I ended up leaving Ohio and coming out to Colorado. I loved it out here. I had visited Colorado one time,
and you're
and
like, I want to live here.
the second I got out of DIA, I took a breath and that cool, non-humid air filled my lungs, and I was like, I want to live here. I
Yeah,
knew it instantly,
yeah, yeah.
instantly.
I really would love to visit Denver. When I think of Denver, I always think of like mountains and shit
Yeah, the mountains are not right in Denver. A lot of people think that, and then they come here and they're like, "Oh, they're way, they're,
in the
they're still
distance.
60 miles west or whatever." So, but it is you can see them, and it is gorgeous that they're there. But Denver
Yeah,
is still on the high plains, but it is low humidity, lots of sun. That stuff is true, and the Denver metal scene is huge. I mean, Meshuggah plays here; they sell out a 4,000 person venue.
wow,
I mean, that's not something you see in many U.S. cities.
nice. Have you ever been
So,
to like the Red Rocks there? I know my mom and dad
oh
went
yeah,
years ago. I
oh
would
yeah,
love to see that. That venue looks awesome.
yeah. Red Rocks is gorgeous. The best show I ever saw there was Opeth Gojira and Devin Townsend.
Oh wow.
That was mind blowing.
Yeah, yeah, gotta love the Ackerfeld.
Yes,
Yeah,
and there is a video of that. So if I don't know how much of it is on YouTube or whatever else, but the Opeth at Red Rocks, there's video footage of that, and I believe Gojira too. But Opeth did theirs professionally. The live at Red Rocks video,
yeah,
it was excellent. They sounded amazing. It was a hell of a night. There was a blood moon in the sky, like a full moon, but with the red tinge, and it was
yeah,
called the blood moon. And between the blood moon, the beautiful mountains, the red rock formations, the stars, and other substances. Anyway, it was quite a night.
yeah.
So I was glad to be there with all my metal friends from Denver, and a lot of people even flew in. We had some people fly in from Norway
Holy
and all
shit,
sorts of
that's
places to
awesome.
come see that. Yeah, it
Yeah,
was great.
yeah. But tell me about a little bit about Dark Arena, that EP Alien Factor, which came out in 2006. Hard to believe it's been almost 20 years since that.
Yeah,
So how was that EP experience like?
yeah. That one was actually a full length, and I recorded all the keyboards on that. And yeah, it was really fun, and that stretched me musically to do more of that technical, progressive metal, if you will, progressive power metal, and then just different too because I hadn't done a band with clean singing in a long time, and I could do some of the backing vocals live, so that was really fun too. I'm a little picky about my clean singing. I mean, you can't go wrong with Opeth or early Scar Symmetry or
Yeah,
Catatonia or people with golden voices. But you know, I don't like every power metal band. I don't like every band with clean vocals. I'm a little picky there. So it
yeah,
was neat to work with some Cleveland legends in that Dark Arena band though. And then they did a second album, and I'm actually on some of the songs, but I'm not credited.
oh,
I don't
wow.
know what happened there, but it happens.
Yeah, but then flash forward many years later, go into 2013, you did Moth with Endlessly in Motion. Like, tell me about that.
Oh man, I loved that project. Moth was formed by a guitarist who's still in the Denver area named David O'Barry, amazing guitar player. One of his favorite bands is Nevermore. You can hear some of that influence in Moth. And that band I just thought was really well put together, excellent songwriting, interesting, well produced, all of that good stuff. Actually, Dave Otero produced that, and he's pretty much a legend
Yeah,
in Denver, and he actually played drums on the release as well, which a lot of
really?
people don't know.
I had no idea he
Yeah,
was a
so
drummer. I know he produced stuff. I know he produced some of Cattle Decapitation's albums.
yep, yep. But yeah, Mr. Otero is playing drums on that Endlessly in Motion, but very, very cool project, and I loved it. And we got to play some really big shows in Denver. We got to open for Fear Factory, Trivium, Iced Earth, Sabaton, very, very cool, high profile shows that we got to play with Moth. And unfortunately, uh, we all just kind of got kicked out of the band one day and then it was no more. I don't really know
Damn.
what else to say about it.
Yeah.
But
And that yeah, and then of course that pretty much led into Blood Strike. You did in 2014 you did the Necrobirth demo. Tell me about that. That's just some really
yeah,
sick
so
shit.
yeah, thank you. So yeah, after Moth kind of fizzled out, I'm always looking for other cool projects to join up with, and one of my old friends, Jeff Alexis, I had known him from the Denver scene for many years. Moved to Denver in 2006, and one of my favorite bands from first moving to Denver was called Silencer. They've been around in from the late '90s in Denver, and I was friends with that band. So Keith Spargo was the main guy, and Jeff Alexis was, I think, playing bass with Silencer, and I just knew those guys from the scene. And when Jeff told me he was starting a new Swedish style death doom HM2 sound kind of band, and I thought, okay, cool, I'll check it out. So I came down. They needed a bass player. They had two guitars, drums, vocals already, and so yeah, I was pretty much the last person to join, and I thought that that was cool to do kind of more old school, Entombed, Cancer, just old, kind of the old school HM2 death metal sound. Yeah, I was all for it, and we had a couple releases that I'm on
Yeah,
with that
that
band from the Necrobirth EP, and then
and
the
in
full
Death We
length
Rot.
in Blood We Rot, in Death We Rot, yeah, with cover art by Mark Riddick, which was very cool. And then the second CD, I'm actually on three or four of the tracks, and Dan Svano from Sweden actually mixed and mastered that one, which was very cool. I'm a huge fan of everything that that guy touches, from Edge of Sanity to
Yeah.
Nightingale
And I
to
love
uh,
Insanity. It's a shame that though that
yeah.
band broke up because I love their song Black Tears.
Oh
Here's that's
yeah.
like one of my songs. And I know Heaven Shall Burn did like a cover of that, and I thought that was
Oh,
awesome.
yeah, off of Purgatory Afterglow. That's a great release. And then for any Edge of Sanity nerds out there, those albums got remastered this year because that was always a listenability issue with, even though those albums were cool as heck. Spectral Sorrows and Purgatory Afterglow, just left a little to be desired in the production department, and he went and remixed and remastered those, and they're available now, and they're very good. I
Yeah.
highly
Yeah. Where do
recommend.
you where do you where are they where can you get them at?
I don't know. I think just do a search, but
Yeah.
I
Because I
my
don't have
friends and I
any of
got
their albums in my
got
collection.
yeah, got the remixed Purgatory Afterglow. Yeah, just I think this summer is when it came out. So
Oh wow.
uh,
I'm way out of the loop then.
very good stuff. But yeah, so it was cool to get to have something that I did that Dan, or as it's pronounced in Swedish, Dan Svanu, actually got to have a hand in. But yeah, I met him. Nightingale played the 2001 edition of Prague Power in Atlanta, and
Well,
that was my
not
first
far
time
from where
going
I'm
to
at.
Atlanta. Yeah, it was a long time ago, 2001,
I
and
was
and
only
it was
seven.
ah, and that's funny. And Richard, that Prague Power was supposed to be in September, but 9/11 happened that year,
Yeah.
and because of the flights being shut down and everything after 9/11, the promoters of Prague Power had to move the festival out and get all those bands from overseas to come later. So the festival itself got moved to November, even though Prague Power is usually around Labor Day weekend or
Yeah,
somewhere
but I
close
know
to
one
that.
year they had it in June, in the
Yeah,
22
it's just
edition.
usually in September, and then that year was in November. But fortunately, Nightingale and Camelot and a lot of those bands could still play that year, and so I got to meet the Svano brothers, Don, and Dog, and we got to hang out for a little bit. He made fun of Midwest accent, calling him Dan Swano. He's like, that's not, and he goes, Dan. And I'm like, I'm sorry, tell me how to say
Yeah.
it. And he's like, Don. And I'm like,
On
okay, fair
Dan.
enough.
Yeah. Because it's funny because my mom is actually from Ohio, but I've actually been was born in Georgia and never had like the Georgia accent. So I guess I have a little bit of that Midwest kind of thing kind of rubbed off on me.
It sounds like you just have no accent, like
Yeah.
like
I
a
just speak normal.
newscasters.
I just
Yeah.
speak normally.
Yeah. Straight up, no discernible US dialect other than regular ass US.
Be like, hello
So
there, how are you?
yeah. Hand me that apple. It's really Midwest.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny whenever if I get off the phone with my mom, my accent is a little thicker because she has more of that. The Cleveland accent is like a Chicago light, so nowhere near as thick as the Chicago accent, but just a little bit of that. And so, yeah, I'll get off the phone, hand me that apple, a little bit of that.
Apple.
It's that's that Midwest accent. But I've tried to ditch it out here, but every once in a while I
It
meet
creeps back
somebody
in.
and they'll say, "Where in the Midwest are you from?" Like, oh crap.
Yeah.
So I get busted on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was raised there. You could take the girl out of Ohio.
Yeah. But then going into 2017, you did Sar
Isatum.
Istatum and you
Isatum.
did
Yeah.
the Sherpu Poo album. Tell me about
Yeah.
that. I know you're credited as Memtim. So,
Memitim.
Memitim, how
Memitim.
did how did that nickname come to be?
Memitim is the angel of death. And I'm surprised more people don't
Yes.
use that word.
Really?
Yeah, Memitim
Slayer.
means angel of death, which is like sick as hell. I don't know why.
Means
But
Slayer.
I was, I guess everyone in that band had some kind of an alternate name. And I looked that up and found that Memitim meant angel of death. And I thought, well, that's cool as hell. So I'll use that. But yeah, Sarah Satum had been kicking around for maybe a year. And then they had someone playing keyboards, Jason playing keyboards with them, and then after he departed, they were looking for a new keyboard player. And my buddy Hugh was playing guitar with that band, and Hugh asked me if I would come in and help out. They had some shows booked, and they were getting ready to record, and they needed somebody to step in kind of quickly and learn kind of quickly. And I thought, well, hey. Uh, Symphonic black metal, cool. I do that.
Yeah.
So I went in and helped them out, and I was only ever helping them. I never wanted to be like a full-time member of that band. I was just coming in to help. So that was the arrangement: come in, record the album, do a few shows with us. And then yeah, the band ended up breaking up, and a lot of the members live in different places now and stuff like that. But it was fun while it lasted. We played a couple cool shows. We played with Uada. Um, that's what I remember off the top of my head, playing a show with Uada.
Nice. And then flash forward to about 2021, you formed Torn from Existence. So how did you get to know everybody and how the band come to be and all that good stuff?
Yeah, so as usual, I was the last one to join that band too. They had already formed, they had already gotten formed, and it's David A. Couch. He always goes by David A. Couch. I don't know why. He says not to be confused with the other David Couches in the industry. I don't know who they are, but they're out there. Anyway, so I've known him forever. He is also from Cleveland, and the second drummer in Somnus, Chris Stoley, used to play in Thanatopsis with Dave. So we had the same drummer, just at different points in our lives. And so I knew that Dave lived out here in Colorado now, and I'd see him at shows, and we'd hang out. And uh, after they got Torn from Existence going, he got Bill on bass, and then he eventually got Jeremiah on drums and Craig on vocals, and they were all ready to go. But they knew they wanted keyboards. They knew they wanted to do blackened symphonic death metal. They knew they wanted keyboards, and they were thinking who they could ask in the Denver metal scene. There's maybe four of us keyboard players in the scene, and some others too, but four that are gigging regularly, and people know who we are and stuff like that. So they were just thinking, well, who can we ask? They were all in other bands. They asked me in 2023. So they were kicking around for a little while, getting stuff together. And they're like, okay, we really can't go any further until we get this keyboard player. So early 2023, Dave reached out and said, I know you live up in the mountains. I moved up here in Bailey, Colorado, which is, like I said, a little over an hour from Denver. I moved here in December of 2020, and they knew that I lived kind of far away, and they were wondering if I would come down to the city for band practice and things like that, or if I was retired from metal yet. And they were like, "Well, what do you think?" And I said, "Well, why don't you send me the music? Because I guess I can. I will always keep an open mind." And they sent me the music, and I thought, "Huh, this is pretty cool. This is cool stuff. I should probably figure out how to be a part of it." And then my next question to Dave was, how often is band practice, and do I have to come every single week? And I'm thinking of all this driving I'm going to be doing. So he's like, "Well, just start coming to band practice once or twice a month, and we'll figure it out." And now I have no problem going down there every week because we're gigging, we're getting ready for our second. Well, we're getting ready to start recording material for the second album. So yeah, we're pretty busy, but I liked what I heard, and the guys are awesome. What a great group. We're kind of like Muppets. We're very animated. Everyone's got their hair that flops all over the place. And like if you met us all, you'd be like, that's a group of five Muppets right there. Like, look at those crazy
It's always
bastards.
like that band from the Muppets, like with the animal and stuff.
Yeah. We're all like that. Dark Muppetry, we say, but we're just a bunch of characters, and we're just such a fun group when we get together. We're silly bastards, even though we're making scary music. But yeah, it's a nice place to be at this point in my metal career, if you will. Like just doing something that has a blend of death metal and black metal because I love both, and I don't have to pick. I can do both.
Yeah.
And then just with everybody having such a great personality and being very talented with their instruments, it's just a nice place to be right now.
Nice. But tell me about like Hirkin the Darkened Skies, the debut full-length album, which came out in October of last year. So what was sort of like the whole writing and recording process like, and like for the first full length?
Yeah, so David had everything written pretty much. He did collaborate with Craig on some lyrics, but he even had a lot of the lyrics done. So it was mostly he was kind of coordinating and conducting the rest of us to learn his material. But that being said, he's not dictatorial. If Jeremiah wants to do something a little different on drums than what David was thinking, then we do it. But yeah, a lot of the stuff was written already. So it was more just a matter of learning it and putting it together and then getting it tight and putting our own stamp on it. And then we went and recorded that with Shane Howard, who I had known from the Moth days. Shane played on that Moth Endlessly in Motion album, and also learned recording, engineering and production from Dave Otero. So we went with Shane, and he put out a pretty good product for us. He's very fun to work with. So that all got recorded, in Shane Son and Quartered studios there. And then we had him mix and master everything too to just try to get it out there and try to make sure that anybody knew who the heck we were. And then after that, we played some shows, and then uh, because we talked a little bit about 70,000 tons of metal. You can see
Yes.
I'm drinking with my heavy metal beach party
Oh
glass,
yeah.
High
Can't wait to
Doro.
go back. Yeah, were you
Yeah,
on this past
and
one?
and so then
Were you on this past
I
one?
we so that's what I'm getting to. We actually Torn from Existence got to play the last heavy metal beach party at the
Oh,
Clevelander
damn.
Hotel.
How did I not
I
see
did
miss
not
that?
go on the cruise.
Damn.
I don't know. We were there with Oak, Ash, and Thorn and a couple of good bands. But yeah, Torn from Existence actually played the Heavy Metal Beach Party in January of 2025. So it was this year. But yeah, we really appreciated that opportunity, and we were glad that the Heavy Metal Beach Party committee voted for Torn from Existence to be one of the bands to come down to Florida and play the
Yeah.
Clevelander.
Bring him
We felt
back.
like rock stars that weekend. It was really fun.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
it was
got
really
y'all gotta
fun.
play that again.
Um,
Then who knows? We need to get convince
oh,
Andy that
it
we
was
need
great.
we need to get Torn from Existence on the boat.
Well, would love that, of course. Someday, stretch goal, get Torn from Existence on that boat. I know that our merch was on the boat because we were on the beach handing out all this Torn from Existence merch. And then I heard from people who were on the cruise that they saw people with Torn from Existence beach bags and Torn from Existence buttons and shirts and all that fun stuff because we were just canvassing the whole beach. I know it was funny. My bass player Bill said, "Can I hand out Torn from Existence bags to all the hot chicks I see?" And I was like, "Yes, hand them out to everyone." Like we want a full we want the boat full of people walking around with Torn from Existence stuff. So yeah, so it was great. We had such a good time, and thanks Doro and David for helping get us down there on Heavy Metal Beach Party. That was amazing.
Definitely. Like, and of course like start talking about like the formation of the band because I know like everybody came from like different bands and stuff, especially with you with like Moth and Isheron and all Avernus and blah those other bands. Like was it the goal for the band to sort of like combine all of like your past bands, like the stuff you had brought into what one big thing, or what did you want to all like just start with like a clean slate?
I if you hear any of those other influences in there, I mean, part of it is just me, right? I had talked earlier about having sensibilities to do heavy metal keyboards, and it is funny. I'll even share since my mom Carol is a metalhead, I'll even share stuff that I'm working on with her, and she'll just remark like, "Yep, that reminds me of something you played years ago." Not in a mean way, not like I'm only ripping off my own material or something, but when you hear a keyboard part, you can tell it's me. Like I have certain ways that I play and things that I do that are like, I don't know if they're signature, I don't know, whatever. I don't want to sound like uh uh uh, uh what's the word I'm looking for? Begins with a P.
Yeah,
It's not
Psycho.
it's psycho. I don't want to sound like a psycho. No, it's a no, there's a pretentious. That's
Oh
the word I'm
yeah, that
looking for.
was it.
I,
Yeah.
I don't want to sound pretentious like I have some kind of thing going on. All I know is I got my own style and it comes through. And then when people hear keyboards, they're like, oh, that's definitely a Rhiannon, I can tell. So um I think I'll always have my own stank on something just because that's how I play and I've been doing this for so freaking long at this point. And then so if it did sound like if it sounds like Torn from Existence combines a lot of past influences, then that's probably how it's worked. And I don't think it was intentional. I think that's just the way it went because the material was written by David. It's not like I wrote the material, but I did get to put my own parts together. You know what I mean? So I brought my own influence to the table in that regard. And then the newer stuff, I'm super excited about. The
Yeah.
newer Torn from Existence material, I think, is even better. I think it's more complex, it's heavier, it's all the good things. And then I've also got to weigh in more. He knows now that how we have a good working relationship. And so he doesn't even bother. He used to kind of write some of the keyboard parts just on the computer, just messing around. And now he doesn't even do that. He's like, I know that you can come up with cool parts. So I'm not worried about him. You know, go off and do cool things. So the new stuff has, I think, more challenging keyboard parts because I wrote them myself and more interesting parts again because I was able to put more time and thought into it. And I'm super stoked to get this new stuff out. Craig sounds better than ever. So you talked about musicians coming from other bands. Craig, our vocalist, had never really been in a serious gigging and recording band before. He did a little bit with one band before us, but that was it. And so he's being the new guy. It's really interesting to watch him grow and develop as a musician because he doesn't have 30 years experience screaming and yelling and growling. This is all pretty new to him, and it's been cool to see him evolve and hear him have more power in his gutturals and better enunciation and timing and all the fun stuff that a vocalist should have, that an extreme metal vocalist should have. So I'm really looking forward to getting the new Torn from Existence out there so y'all can hear how much better Craig has gotten and how much tighter we've all gotten and how much heavier and cooler the music is. And David's like a mad genius. He writes all this cool stuff and I'm super happy to be a part of it.
Nice. And then of course like with Hurricane the Darkened Sky is out. It's of course been out since last October. So how's like the overall like reception and feedback been for the album?
Thank you for asking, Richard. The reviews have been awesome. Everyone who's reviewed it has given it a great review. I mean, just universally. So the reception has been good. I've heard so much good feedback and so many good things about it. where people are really enjoying it. And again, not a lot in the US that sounds like us. Um, we're still working on trying to get label interest. We don't have that yet. And would definitely invite anybody to come listen and go, hey, maybe you should pitch it to this person or send it here or send it there. Anybody have feedback on that? Hey, we're all ears. We've got plenty more music to put out, and we'd love to have label and distribution assistance with doing that. So yeah, we've gotten a great response, and it just encourages us to keep on going. And we've got a cool local fan base. We did a video for Tempted by the Necromancer, and in that video, a lot of our friends from the Denver scene actually got to be have cameos in that video. The premise is that we all work for this company called Existence Corp, and we're all wearing our navy blue polos and
Yeah, I've
just
seen that video.
trying to
It
get
looks
through.
badass.
Thank you. Yeah, that was kind of my brainchild. I just thought, what if we were all in this office and instead of working, we were promoting the band while on the clock? Highly relatable content.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I just thought let's have a conference room jam, and all our friends were in there jamming out with us, and it was just a really cool experience. And I think the video is very funny. I love when Jeremiah throws a donut at David for, he's our wellness coach. He's trying to keep us from being unhealthy, and we're drinking on the clock and doing all the stuff we're not supposed to be doing. I think it's hilarious. But yeah, so that we love our Denver fans and the Denver scene. They've been super supportive. And we're just kind of hoping that we can reach a wider audience someday too.
Nice. Nice. I especially love how a few months ago you were like on like the Colorado news. So what was that experience like?
Oh my God, that was so fun. Um, so we know there's metalheads. The Denver metal scene is pretty awesome, as I mentioned earlier, and there are metalheads in unlikely places. And the meteorologist from that station, uh, Liz, she's a metalhead and goes to shows, and she was talking to David and somehow invited us to come on to the morning news and in the weather report, and everybody was so cool. The whole staff was so cool and welcoming to us, and then to lift the one news guy and have him crowd surf. That was outrageous. I mean, who the heck goes on TV and crowd surfs a newscaster? That was just a wild Friday morning. And some of us were out very late that Thursday night. I don't know who, but that was an interesting wake up to be on the news. And it was cool too. I had a bunch of my coworkers watching and recording it. And it was a very strange experience to have death metal on the morning news in Denver, but go Denver. Denver's a metal as hell town.
Hell yeah. Yeah, and I know you like you mentioned before you're working on the next Torn from Existence album. Like, what is the status with that? And are you gonna pick up where you left off after Hurricane the Darkened Skies, or will you try something new or different this time around?
Yeah, no, I think that anybody who's a fan of us now will be very pleased with the direction that we're heading in, because it's going to be, the same basic sound, but heavier. Um, I think there's heavier parts to this album, and darker and more interesting. So it's just our stuff now, but building on that even more.
Nice. And then, of course, recently you joined up with Ether Hest with you and I think Craig and Jeremiah. So how'd that band come to be?
Yeah, yeah. So they were actually practicing in the same jam space that Torn from Existence is in, especially since our drummer Jeremiah, his stuff is there. So obviously we practice in that same room. And Stefan was is the main songwriter there, the lead guitarist, and he was writing, had all this melodeath written, and through it might have been Craigslist, I think, found Jeremiah, and then they linked up. So then Stefan was showing up in our practice spot, and sometimes they would practice right before Torn from Existence. So I'd see him leaving, and obviously Craig and Jeremiah would stay for Torn practice. So Jeremiah and Craig would both kind of mention, "Hey, Rhiannon, I know you can play bass. Uh, you should check out our band. You should check out the other band, Ither Hest." And I'm like, I don't have time. I work. I'm an aerospace engineer by day. and I am already in Torn from Existence, and I already live in the middle of nowhere, and I just thought, I don't know if I want to be in a second band. But one day this April, I just got a crazy wild hair that I should check out that band. I'm like, well, what if they're really good and I'm missing out on something? And it just came to me out of nowhere. And so then I messaged Craig and I said, don't get too excited, Craig, but can you send me some Ither Hest tracks to check out? And then he immediately writes back, oh my God, I'm so excited. You're going to join our band. And I told him, I said, bro, I'm just checking it out. And he goes, yes, but it's good. So I know that once you check it out, you're going to be in.
Yeah.
And he was not wrong. Craig was not wrong. So, um, he knows me. We were already in the band for 2 years at that point in Torn. And I checked out the music and went, man, this is really good. So we're Omnium Gatherum, In
Yeah.
Flames, Soil Work, your mellow death, just like guitar driven, uh, high production value kind of mellow death stuff. And I thought, well, maybe it'll be fun to play bass for that. So I dusted off my basses in April and started working on that music. And I went, well, this stuff's kind of technical,
Yeah.
but I had to dust some rust off. But after that, it's feeling like home again. And then of course I had to buy new basses because my old ones weren't good enough. But yeah, so now we're a complete band. I was the last person to join. I'm always the last person to join whatever band.
Yeah, they saved the best
Um,
for last.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I was the last person to join. And then we played our first show at my house, actually. I've got a big, you clearly have your collection behind you, which is awesome.
Yeah, I have
But
like
if I
three
wanted to
over
be in my
3,000 CDs or something.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
But if I wanted to be out in my version of Metal Command Center, I would be out in my studio, but the internet connection's poor out there. So unfortunately I can't be out there with you on video. But I've got a jam room out there on my property. I've got about 4.5 acres up here. I've got a
Oh
jam room
wow.
out on my property, and I've got a pool table and couches and metal posters, and
Yeah.
that's my cool metal room
Yeah.
that I
I'm gonna
would
have to
be
make a
in for the
trip to
interview
Colorado
if I could.
then.
Yeah, come visit. You're definitely welcome. So it's a 1,600 square foot building, and it's big enough. It's like the size of a small venue. So we've had two shows up here, two live shows, with bands playing, and we warn the neighbors so that they don't call the cops. So far, so good. It's working. And the first time we had Torn from Existence do our first show ever, and that was in August of 2023. And that we call that our soft launch. And then Ither Hest, we had our soft launch here August of 2025. So it's nice because it's like playing a house party kind of takes the pressure off, instead of going right out to a venue and having your first show out in public at a venue. So that's kind of what I'll do. And I have my summer party. Some people have called it Rhia Fest. Some people call me Rhia, short for Rhiannon.
Yeah.
But since Wiz is in my last name with Wisniewski, I thought Wiz Stock would be better. So maybe the next edition might be called Wiz Stock. But yeah, we had Chamber Mage play here. They played Hell's Heroes. That's my shirt. We
Yeah.
had Chamber Mage play here, and then we had a band called High Fells play here too this year, and it was really fun. And then yeah, Torn from Existence played the first time around. So anyway, with Ither Hest, they were already playing in the same room, and with two of the same members, but the music is totally different. Mellow death that nothing like what Torn from Existence is doing really. So we're cognizant of making sure stylistically those bands wouldn't be confused. But now Ither Hest has played 3 shows, so we're just getting out on the scene. Pretty new band,
Yeah.
but I'm looking forward to more in 2026. We're going to record an EP,
Yeah.
and it's super cool. We actually have Christian Alvestrom from X Scar Symmetry, Solution
And
45.
great vocalist. One of my
Uh-huh.
opinion, the most underrated vocalists. Because
Yes.
I loved his work with
He,
Scar Symmetry, especially Holographic Universe is
oh,
like a great record.
absolutely. And Pitch Black Progress is like
Yeah,
perfection.
especially The Illusionist. That's like one of my favorite songs, especially both
Yeah.
then go to Ghost Prototype 1 and 2. Ugh, that especially Ghost Prototype 2 is a perfect song.
Yeah, so good. I love him too. So I'm very excited that Christian is going to be doing guest vocals on one of the Ither Hest songs when we get our
Yeah.
EP going.
Yeah.
So we hope that that really helps get us out there a little bit.
Yeah, but I love the two Ither Hest songs that you have out now on SoundCloud, "Never Back Down" and "In Bloodless Somber." But those are some banging songs. Like, how did those songs come to be?
So all of that's actually all recorded by Stefan right now. He did everything except for the vocals, just with his home studio setup. So with the EP, we will actually all track our own parts, and because right now that's actually Easy Drummer and stuff too. So we'll do a 4 song EP. We're going to re-record Never Back Down with the full band, and then we have 3 other songs, including one that will have Christian doing clean vocals on it with our singer Craig. So that EP will record that and pay for someone to mix and master that for us. But Stefan is pretty good with that stuff now, so we're taking advantage of having pretty decent pre-production stuff for free,
Yeah.
essentially just Stefan's time. So yeah, so he writes everything and does the lead guitar, but Craig, does the lyrics and figures out the vocal patterns and what he's going to do when pretty much on his own. And then, Jeremiah has free license to edit his drum parts and stuff. And same with myself on bass and then Ryan on second guitar. The music's pretty structured, but if we want to see something done a little bit differently, we can always try it out and do that whole thing. But I'm really excited about the 4 song EP with Christian on it. I think that's going to be a great way to enter the metal verse.
Definitely. Definitely. And of course, I want to talk about like your approach to bass because I know you've heard your fair share of bass player jokes and memes and all that good stuff, but you don't gravitate towards flashy bass playing, but I feel like you find ways to link what the guitars are doing with the melody and what the drums are doing with the rhythm. So for you with whether it be with Ither House or any of the other projects that you've been involved with, and like what's like your approach to like slapping the bass?
Yeah. Well, you pretty much nailed it. And you have astute ears. I know you've been listening to metal for a long time. So obviously you know what you're talking about. But that is my approach. Where can I complement the guitar melodies or where should I complement the rhythmic patterns that are going on in the percussion section? And bass and keyboards are very similar in that way. The left hand on the keyboard is basically the same as the bass line. So even though I'm a keyboard player in a band, I'm still sort of playing bass because that's the left hand part. And so I have to think what would sound best in that song, and then I can utilize my keyboard experience to say, hey, I'm just going to do a left hand part and really keep it simpler and lay something down under the guitars and let them shine at that point. And or back up the drum part and do some accents that are the same as the bass drum. And then there are other times where it would be really cool if there were a 3-part harmony and the 2 guitars are soaring off and doing a harmony, and then the bass part does a cool counterpoint melody there, to back that up and something a little flashier with the guitars. So I just think it's whatever that part of the song calls for. I listen to the songs many, 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 many times and just really think about is a simple part good right here, or should we step it up? Should I do a little fill here? What won't step on somebody else? I think with bass that it's important to think about not stepping on the other instruments because the bass is just quite frankly not a lead instrument. It can be. I mean, if you're Les Claypool or whatever, you could certainly make it stand out in the band.
Yeah.
Or like the dude, I don't know his name, but from Neo Obliviscaris,
Oh,
obviously that guy's a hell of a bass player.
Martino Galatoni.
Yeah, yeah. Or I would never question if you're Martin Mendez, then yes, do whatever you want. That dude
Yeah.
is God on bass.
Yeah.
Um, but for me, yeah, I don't really like to take away from the song, and I don't want to do anything distracting. But I do want to do cool stuff and stuff that shows that I've put thought into it, and stuff that shows that that I can technically play a little bit. And that's about what I'm after. Is how's the song going to be best served by
Yeah.
what I'm doing?
Yeah. Do you usually play with like fingers or do you use a pick?
I'm a pick player.
Yeah.
I grew up playing guitar and I appreciate fingerstyle bass. And I don't think that one or the other is right or wrong. I think it has to do with your personal ability the type of bass you play, the type of strings you use, what your band sounds like, and then how tight you are with either method. All of that plays into whether fingerstyle or pick is going to be suitable for you and suitable for your band. I have to say that in Ither Hest, I feel like picked bass serves us well because we're a very, tight melodeath band. It doesn't really need a lot of uh weird timings and embellished parts like some tech death would or whatever. And so I don't and because of that tight attack that the guitars have, I think that the picked bass really helps us all sound pretty tight. So
Yeah.
my bandmates agree, and I agree that me using a pick with that band is the best way to go. But that being said, if someone was amazingly tight with fingerstyle and they could pull off that attack, great, do it. I'm not that guy. I grew up playing guitar.
Yeah.
My first guitar. I got my first guitar when I was 12. I grew up playing Queensryche and Testament, and always using a pick and Megadeth. And
Yeah.
I still use a pick to this day, and I'm far better with a pick.
Yeah, yeah, and of course, have you ever heard any of those bass player elitist comments be like, "Yeah, picks are for pussies."
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
I think whatever sounds good in your band and whatever you're comfortable with doing the best, why not be the best? And for me, I am far better using a pick. I can do some pretty tight tremolo picking on bass that, maybe some people cannot match the way that they do it. And it works. It works for Ither Hest. It works for that project because we have a lot of tight riffs with a lot of tight picking patterns.
I
So,
agree, and
but
there's always
you're exactly right.
yeah, and I
And
agree, and that
and
there's always that saying of like, if your bass player sucks, then your band sucks.
yeah, I mean, if they're out of time, oh my gosh, there's nothing worse than a bass player with bad timing. Dear Lord, you better
Yeah,
have good time back there.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
Justice for bass players. There's
yes, yes.
there should
I
be
I
like a
find it fun.
yeah, there should be
I think it's a lot of fun.
like a hug a bass player day.
I agree.
Yeah,
I appreciate that. And I don't mind, and I think it's what you put into it too. You can say that bass player, the bass player isn't adding a lot, or they're underappreciated, or they're doing the least in the band, or any of those comments can be made, and a lot of times they'd be true.
they'd be like
Um,
one
but
string, no
but you get out
problem.
what yeah, but you get out what you put into it. So as a bassist, if I put the extra time in to put some cool fills in or do some interesting accent notes that you might not expect, and then I also really like to move around a lot on stage. I can be pretty animated, maybe compared to some other folks, So I think as far as bass goes, you can have a hell of a time and you can have just as much fun as the drummer or the guitarists, by playing bass as long as you're putting thought into your parts and executing them well, moving around, getting the crowd into it. I do all that on bass, and I find it to be very fun. And it's funny too because Stefan is like a taller guy and bigger hands and all that, and then he's like, I play a guitar and then you play this bass and it's way long on you and your little hands and stuff. He's like, why would you do that to yourself? And I'm like, it is a fair point because guitar is a lot easier for me with smaller hands, but I really love holding down the low end, and I think it's fun to do that and to play the deep notes, and bass players go deeper, all that. So
Yeah, yeah,
ask Robin, she loves playing bass too. So
cool.
it's just I just think it's fun to play, and I don't want to play guitar. I would rather play bass.
Yeah. And then talking about like playing keyboards, because I feel like the keyboard is a very melodic instrument when it comes with Torn from Existence. Like do you usually need to have music present in order to lay down your parts, or you usually have like a keyboard parts written and then the rest of the band can write according to that?
No, usually the rest of the song's done first, and then I add keyboards on top of it, which is cool because I get to hear what's missing, or if that part's already really full, I can do something simple there. But I really like to be at the end because I can, oh hey, this and David will even say like, oh, this part of the song is a little bit lighter. Can you make this heavier? Can you make this darker? And I'll be like, yep, I can put some nasty chords underneath that melody line and make it way darker than just the happy little melody line that the guitars are doing. It's like, no, I'll put a crazy augmented chord underneath there and make this sound dissonant and dark. And I'll play a really deep orchestra sound there to make it darker. Or conversely, if the part's already really deep and heavy, maybe I do some really high piano over the top that just sounds like some crazy Halloween madness, and it's just orchestrated then at that point. So I love being last in that process of arranging music, because then I can see what is already there and go from there. I like that better than writing stuff from scratch. I'm not as big of a fan of that. So I'm glad David's got everything most of the way there, and then I can layer on top and do my thing.
Right. And of course, like you mentioned before, you're also a multi-instrumentalist. Like with playing all these different instruments, do you find like you're able to like express like different sides of you creatively?
Ah, that's a good question. Yeah, I think so, because sometimes parts are a little prettier and more melodic, and then other times they're nastier and more haunting and dissonant, and maybe a little more angry sounding. So yeah, I can do prettier stuff and angrier stuff. I can do more orderly expected parts or more chaotic stuff that people hear that and go, where the heck did that part come from? So yeah, yeah, that's a good question. But yeah, I do feel like I can express different parts of myself with doing the keyboards in Torn. Am I going to do something pretty straight laced, or am I going to do something wacky and nutty that nobody would expect? Um, Big influence is Karak Angren.
Yeah.
That
Do
dude.
which Arctic or Sertigor?
Yeah. Oh my God. I mean, he writes movie scores and stuff, and which is not surprising. He's very
Yeah.
talented in how many parts he can come up with and the orchestration that he's capable of. So, if I can even do one iota of like what Dimmu or Karak does, that's cool.
Yeah. Definitely. And so also like in the end to sort of wrap things up, what's next from like Torn from Existence or Ether Hest? I know you mentioned you're working on some like new music and stuff. Is just anything else you also like to plug in terms of like playing like tours and shows and stuff?
Yeah, well, we'd love to get on tours and shows, and we're working towards that end. So, interestingly, with Torn, our next show is on my birthday. So we're playing in Denver at HQ on January 16th, and that'll be my last year of my 40s. So we'll be playing
Yeah.
that show. We have a nice long set, and it should be a lot of fun. And then we also got word that we were chosen to do a Wacken Battle of the Bands. So, the big Wacken Metal Festival in Germany.
Yeah.
Every year they have bands in the States that are unsigned and don't have
I've
management and
heard
all
about
that fun
that.
stuff. Yeah. So they do this Battle of the Bands thing, and our bassist Bill submitted us to this thing, and we've never done anything like that. But we were on the down select, so we're going to get out to Northern California at the end of March and do this Battle of the Bands contest, and hopefully they like us. I mean, if they do, then maybe we could ever play a fest someday. But that is the goal. That's what we're working towards, and we're hoping that we'll put out an EP with new music in Torn to try to get some more interest and attention going. And we're going to work to promote that, better than we ever have, and just try to have all guns blazing and put our energy behind it. So for Torn, look for new music, look for more shows. We're hoping to get on festivals. We're looking for support with that, and I think between our new music and some of the business approaches that we've got going on, we're going to form an LLC and stuff like that. Then we're poised to do better with promotion and stuff in 2026. So for sure, Torn, and then with Ither Hest, uh, pretty much the same thing. We'll get our first EP out and get music out, and then have Christian sing on that, and hopefully that will turn out as well as we'd like, and start getting on more shows as well.
Nice. So thank you, Rhia, for this conversation. It was great to be able to chat with you. It's just any final words you want to say to the viewers that are watching us to close this out?
No, thank you so much, Richard. I really appreciate your time. Thanks for reaching out.
Anytime,
Um,
anytime.
just an old metal gal still living my metal dreams
Yeah,
on this
as
metal
everybody
planet.
has.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Metal forever,
Yeah.
kill for Satan, all that good stuff.
Yeah. So everybody, Rhiannon Wisniewski from Ether Hest and Torn from Existence, and we'll see you next time.